Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in a second, just finalizing getting all of this set up.
Good morning. Thank you.
All righty. Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the slight delay. Today, I get to run all the technology, so I had to talk with Camila and make sure I knew what I was doing. But we can get started. This is our February District 1 breakfast. We've got an exciting topic today on how to do business with the city of Wichita, but I see we also have one of the members of our fire department on, maybe to give a quick update about District 1 and what's going on with fire. So Matt, we turn it over to you if you had an update for us.
Yes, sir. District 1 stats for our latest month was December, and we had 35 fire alarms, 66 service alarms, 607 medical alarms, for a total of 708 incidents. We currently have, from January, 2 fires that are under investigation. With that, I don't have anything to compare to 2019 for increase or decrease. This time of year, we typically see an increase in fires with winter time and a potential use of space heaters and how that may overload electrical systems. I'd like to give a really quick reminder to folks that, space heaters in themselves can overpower, draw too much energy from your electrical system, and that's one of the leading causes of winter fires. Our smoke detector checks are, we know we do it biannually, with the fall back, spring forward, but we recommend that you do smoke detector CO checks on a monthly basis. If you ever have any questions, please reach out to the Wichita Fire Department. Our number's 268-4451. If you don't have smoke detectors, the Wichita Fire Department can provide those and assist with installation of those. One last thing I'll leave you with is our Close Before You Doze community risk reduction program. And basically that's, you can contact the Wichita Fire Department. Essentially it boils down to at night when you're sleeping, close your bedroom door. A simple bedroom door can protect you if fire starts somewhere else in your house and keep that toxic atmosphere out of your room, allowing the fire department a quicker access from ulterior means. A lot of times we know by risk profiling where people are trapped in their homes, with bedrooms being one of the high percentage areas. So we make targeted searches of all our ingress, egress of your homes. Second place we look for, and we prioritize is bedrooms. So that's about all I have, sir. Any questions?
Thank you for the update. I don't see any questions on here. There's a little bit of a lag to Facebook, so I'll see. While I'm checking, you had mentioned that folks could reach out to the fire department to get smoke detectors. Could you give a contact number?
Absolutely. 316-268-4451. Also, if you have one moment and allow a share screen, I will put a document up that has our contact information and some helpful tips.
All right. I just made you a co-host so you can share your screen.
Okay.
There are no questions on Facebook.
Okay. This is our fact sheet, and it just gives some background information. Is that visible, sir?
No, it hasn't popped up yet.
Okay, let me try again. Let's go share.
There we go.
Let's see. Did it come up that time?
Yep, it's up.
All right. So just some facts here. And at the bottom, you'll have our contact number here and some of the references to these facts. Don't ever hesitate to call your fire department. We're here for the community and in anything at all. The administrative number is right there. And of course, if you have any emergencies at all, we know to call 911.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I don't see any questions either on Facebook or in here. So I'll ask another time. Is there anyone who has questions for Matt? Lori.
It's not really a question, but I noticed it also on your list that you just put up. Make sure that people understand the age of their home can make a big difference on how quickly a fire can spread. My house is 100 years old. I can't even screw a screw into the wood here. It's that hard. But the newer homes are not made that way, and they take off fast. So you don't have much time to get out. That's why I was looking at your close the door thing.
Absolutely. And our furnishings and what we keep in our homes has changed so much in the last 30 years. Fire is much quicker than it was when we were younger. So again, closing that bedroom door and isolating you from that fire is going to protect your environment and allow you to survive much longer. And our response times are really rapid. And again, like I'd said earlier, we do really rapid prioritized searches. The national data and even the data within our community supports these areas that we search the first. Ideally, we don't respond to a fire in your home. You know, we want our prevention and our risk reduction. We want to make sure you have early warning with smoke detectors. And if you ever have any questions, the 268-4451 is our administrative number, and we welcome all contacts.
Thank you. That's important to know.
Thank you.
It's also snowing right now.
Yes, it is. Are there any other questions for Matt? All right. Thank you, sir, for joining us and giving the update. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
So next we have up, we'll have our special guest for this month, and then I'll give some updates after that. We have Chris Hazlett. He's with the City of Wichita. Many of you have seen him come to our breakfast before to talk about how to do business with the city and all the wonderful initiatives and work that's going on and giving those updates. And Chris has been really good about responding and helping get more vendors for the city. So definitely appreciate that, and want to turn it over to you, Chris. I made you a co-host as well.
All right. Well, hey, well, thank you very much, Vice Mayor, for letting me come on today and talk with your group and your the people in your area. Obviously, we want to talk today about how to do business with the city. We are always looking to expand and grow the city's vendor base. So again, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I am having a little lag time with my computer as far as showing anything, so I might not pop anything up. If I can get it to kind of do some stuff for me, I will. So if at any time, if there's any questions, I'll stop along the way and see if anybody has any questions for me, and we'll go from there. But again, I'm with Chris Hazlett. I'm with the City of Wichita. I'm the Contract Compliance Officer with the Purchasing Department. And our mission in purchasing is to obtain the greatest value for each dollar spent. And the city, we are committed to the growth and development of our competitive vendor base. And this does include emerging and disadvantaged businesses. A little bit about the purchasing department. We are centralized, so we purchase everything for all departments. That's airport, transit, police department, fire department, public works, and the libraries, Park and Rec. Last year, 2020, the city paid out to vendors roughly about $250 million. And we do, on average, pay out about $12 million to vendors on purchasing cards. And a lot of that is our small purchases that we do. And then about 45 million, or just close to 20%, we spend with small businesses and minority-owned businesses. Public Works Engineering is by far our largest department that we spend money on. Probably about 80% of our dollars are spent there. And a lot of that is on road work or water line work. We do purchase any and everything, but that is our largest group that we do spend money on for. And in purchasing, we do, our policies are to create open and fair competition. On the city's website, wichita.gov, you can go to the purchasing department, and everything I'm going to talk about today, we have created a video on how to do business with the city. It's about 8 minutes long, and it kind of goes over what we do in purchasing, what our policies are, how to register as a vendor, where we post bids, where we post solicitations, and all of that. We really do believe in our department on transparency. We do want the public, we do want vendors to know exactly what's going on, how we do it, and who's getting awarded. All of that sort of good stuff. The first step, though, to become a vendor with the City of Wichita is to register. If you don't register, we don't know who you are. We don't know the goods and services that you provide. And then more importantly, if you're not registered, you wouldn't be able to bid on any of our solicitations. We do have our own vendor self-service website. You can link to it off of the City of Wichita's main website. It's called Vendor Self-Service. And on there, you simply register. That's on the left-hand side of the page. Just click registration. It takes about 5 minutes to do. We want typical contact information, business information. And then we use a 5-digit commodity code system. That's how we know what type of goods and services that you would provide. And those are searchable. So as you enter your company information, you'll be asked to enter your commodity codes. You can search commodity codes by keyword and then put them on your company's profile. We issue all of our bids, all of our RFPs, which are proposals. We issue everything with those commodity codes. So we grab that commodity code. All the vendors that are registered for that get notified as soon as we post a solicitation. So again, without those codes, we don't know who you are. So that is probably the most important part of registration, is that you get those commodity codes on your profile. Any questions for me right there up to that point?
There are none on social media. Is there anyone on here that has any questions? All right, not seeing any.
All right. After registration, I think I talk to a lot of vendors. I talk to a lot of small businesses. Sometimes there's a lot of confusion really maybe on what we do and how we even buy. The city buys in 4 ways. We have formal bids, we have formal requests for proposals, we have just fax quotes is what we call them, and then we have small purchases, which are done off of our P cards or the purchasing credit cards. Formal bids, and a lot of the stuff we buy, a lot of the projects the city does, especially that will go to the news, will either be in the paper, that one of the news stations might pick it up, that city council votes on and awards. Those are going to be some of those high profile purchases. Those are usually done on either formal bids or requests for quotes. These are going to be a lot of the high dollar stuff in projects like that. Formal bids are anything over $50,000. We issue the formal bid. All of the vendors with that commodity code are notified of it. But then that formal bid is also posted online. So it's on the internet. It's for everybody to have access to and view. And that's posted on our vendor self-service site. We also advertise that bid in the Wichita Eagle. And then a lot of our resource partners in town provide those sort of the links to our stuff as well, so their constituents and people that go to them are also able to see those bids. A formal bid is just that. We provide the specifications that we are looking for, the quantity that we are looking for. Oh, thank you, Brandon. There you go. There's the how to do video that we have posted on our purchasing website. And this is on wichita.gov, and we have that video actually in about 4 different spots right there as well. And I know it has been floating around on the City of Wichita's Facebook page as well. So it's a great resource to go right there. And then as you can see, we've got some other tabs as well. But going back to the formal bid, we provide the specifications and the quantities we're looking for. Vendors are then bidding on that, and we award all of our formal bids to the lowest bid that meets specifications. So when we get those bids in, they are reviewed by the department to meet spec, and if they are, it is awarded to that lowest bid. It goes to City Council, they recommend it, and then we either issue a contract or a purchase order for it, and we buy it. The next biggest area of solicitations that we do are called request for proposals, or RFP for short. Again, these are also typically awarded. A lot of our high profile stuff goes through them as well. The difference between a proposal and a formal bid, though, is that a proposal it is typically used for professional services, and then they are evaluated, and that evaluation criteria is posted in the RFP, and it's usually references experience, cost. Those are all part of that evaluation process. The RFP proposals are then evaluated and ranked, and it's not awarded just on low price. It's awarded on whoever has the overall rank and considered to be the best value and the best proposal overall. We have a city staff selection committees review those and evaluate, and we make a recommendation, and then RFPs go to City Council for final approval once that process is done. And then we issue a purchase order, a contract, and we go ahead and procure that. We do have then $5,000 to $50,000, we do what is called a request for quote, or a fax quote. Those purchases, it's only required that we have to get 3 quotes, and the departments will get 3 quotes, or they'll ask purchasing to send out a request for quote, and it will only go to selected vendors for that particular commodity code. So a request for quote is not it's not posted online. Again, these are small, between $5,000 and $50,000. We get 3 quotes. We award it to the low quote that meets that specification as well. And then anything under $5,000, those do not go to purchasing at all. Those are straight from the department. They have the authority to go out and procure anything they need under $5,000. The majority of that is paid for on P cards. And so what I tell a lot of vendors there is that they'll reach out to purchasing, and what they offer is going to be under that threshold. And I will direct you to a contact in departments. So you can make a sales call or reach out to them and find out what it is they buy, because it won't come to purchasing. We don't know when they buy it. So I will send you right to that end user in the department so you can talk to them and get your name in front of them. And so when they are looking for quotes, when they are looking for that small dollar item, they've got your information. Now, you do have to be a registered vendor with the city, so you do want to make sure you're in our system for that. But those purchases are going to come straight from the department. And like I said at the beginning, we spend about $12 million on purchasing cards. So that's $12 million that doesn't go through purchasing. That's right there at the department level. And at that, I'll open up if there's any questions before we move on.
Yeah, there was a question on Facebook. Can a business have more than one commodity code?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the commodity codes, little background. There's about 10,000 commodity codes. So there's a lot of them out there. Some of them even kind of overlap as far as even being close to the same thing. So yes, you can have multiple commodity codes. So definitely choose all that are applicable for your company as well. For example, I'll use ground maintenance, mowing services. A lot of our bids and solicitations would be called ground maintenance. We might call them mowing, but then within there, we might have herbicide type specifications in there as well. So you would want to grab commodity codes that would have the word herbicide, fertilizer, maybe even pesticide, right along then with ground maintenance, mowing. So that way then you're capturing everything, one, that you might do, but then two, you're going to try to capture everything that we would use on a solicitation as well. The other good thing about the commodity codes is, depending on the size of your business, some of our projects, for example, could be very large, and it could be something that that maybe you're more in line to being a subcontractor for. Being registered with those commodity codes then lets you know when these projects are going out for bid. And then so you're able to then be aware of it and have it on your radar as well. So now that's a great question. Definitely get as many commodity codes as you can.
All right, he had a follow-up. How often does a vendor not perform?
Does a vendor not perform? I don't know if there's I couldn't tell you if there's if we've ever had somebody that's a little loaded, not perform. So we do have vendors that are contracted. If there are issues with vendors, the department will document them. Purchasing can get involved to tell them, hey, we need you to step it up and do better. Has there been vendors that we've asked that and debarred them, so to speak, from not bidding? Not that I'm aware of. We don't want it to get to that point. We don't want to tell a vendor, hey, you can't do it. But we do work with those vendors especially when we have documentation from departments that they're not doing what's needed, that we do let them know, hey, look, we need you to do better on this particular thing. And to my knowledge, the vendors are great at responding to that, and they work with the departments, and they work on doing better on what it is they needed to do.
All right, that's it from social media.
Perfect. Thank you. So there on the citieswichita.gov website, under purchasing, you are then able to view a lot of what we do in the purchasing department. You can view our bid results. You can then look at all of our current contracts. And these are all tabs there under purchasing. So under bid results, every formal bid we have, we post the results right there. You're able to see the bid number, the title of the bid, when it opened, how many bids were received, and then when it was awarded. There's another tab for all of our current contracts. So the city does contract, we have about 400 contracts for some of our goods and services. A contract is good for 1 year and typically has 2 renewal options. So in essence, it's a 3-year contract. Scrolling through there, it will really give you a good idea of some of the items that we do purchase on a yearly basis for departments through those contracts. We also have a section for our Emerging Business Enterprise Program, or EBE, and that is for small businesses. And it's a self-certification program. It is patterned a lot after the state's disadvantaged business program. Biggest difference is ours is self-certification. You complete the application if you meet the criteria and send it in to me. I actually manage that program. Again, it's for small businesses, and the criteria for it are based off of the SBA's small business size standards. And this program, one of the benefits of it is you're certified for 3 years, and we pay these vendors net 10 versus net 30. So we get that cash back to the vendors when they do work for the city. And then the directory of the EBE vendors is posted there online. And then we also are on RFPs on the evaluation process. EBE vendors do get more points added for their evaluation criteria. So that's an incentive for them to be certified or to look for maybe a joint venture or a subcontractor that has that. We also then post on our website our quarterly reporting. So you're able to go out and look each quarter on the amount of money that we paid out to vendors. That's also on there. And then we have links to all of our resource partners, which are the School District USD 259, Sedgwick County, the State of Kansas Purchasing, the State of Kansas's DBE program, as well as the Kansas Small Business Development Center out of Wichita State, which is a great resource. And they have a lot of different training classes for businesses, from just learning how to do Excel, learning how to do QuickBooks. And then they even do programs on even how to contract with the governments, being federal, state, local. So they do a lot of good stuff out there. Kansas PTAC, which stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They're also out at Wichita State. They solely work with vendors on how to get contracting with the government. The federal government is their big one, but they do help vendors when they're wanting to look to either expand or get into contracting with local governments as well. And then the SBA, which is a great resource for businesses when it comes to obviously the financing side of it. But then they have several different programs from, they have a Mentor Protege, they have 8A certification, they have different HUD certification. And that group is a valuable resource for us as well. And again, we have links to all of their stuff too. We work closely with all of our resource partners. And we especially work closely with them as we look to expand our vendor base. Wichita is as large as we are, is also a small city in regards to a lot of the resource partners. We're all looking for the same vendors. So we do collaborate and look to expand our vendor pool with them. I did see a question pop up in the chat.
Yeah, we've got 2 in the chat and then 2 on social media. So in the chat, how does the city know if they are discriminating through the distribution of funds?
And how exactly? I probably need a little bit more to that. Is that in regards to not spending it enough with certain minority groups, or not spending it? I need a little bit more to that question.
So Ms. Juanita, did you want to unmute and kind of add to the question and clarify?
Okay, so basically I am asking, like, how does the city know when minority groups are not being not receiving the distribution of the funds? Do y'all reach out to the community? Does there a process where people make complaints? What is the process that you have in place to know if people are not getting funded or getting the resources that are available through the city?
No, perfect. Thank you. That's a great question. On the purchasing side, the first thing we do is outreach. What we're doing today, I want people to be aware of how to do business with the city, how to become a vendor, how to bid on city work. So that's the first step, obviously, right there, is because sometimes there's a lot of confusion, especially with small businesses, how to even get started. So outreach is key. Today we're doing a how to do presentation. I've got 4 more set up this year with a local resource partner called CML Collaborative. We're going to do how to do as well. And we're specifically doing outreach into the minority vendor base so they know how to do that, because we do want to expand that. Second thing, vendors can always call the department, purchasing department, if they don't feel that there's enough representation in our vendor base for that. Our reporting is put online so you can see who our vendors are that we're using, from majority owned to minority owned, and the dollars that are spent with them on those vendors. And then you can look and see who our contracts are. And so if some vendors do some research, they can see a lot of that. Now, when it comes to maybe some other city funding, if it comes to maybe how the city spends money with libraries, or in your area with maybe the rec center or a park or anything like that, that's not through purchasing. And that obviously there's different avenues you can go to them. But on the purchasing side, for us, outreach is the key. We want vendors and we want to get it out there as well. And then if there's any questions, they can always contact us.
Thanks, Chris. The other question in this chat is, can current city workers who own a small business bid on a job as a vendor?
That's a great question. And long story short, it's yes, but the bigger part of it is they can't really, if they are the owner of it, so they're going to actually be the one that manages all of that, it would be no. If they happen to work a side job and it's with a company and they're not in a managerial position with them, then typically it would be okay. But if they're the actual owner of the small business and employed by the city, that would be a no. It would be a conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you for that. Going back to social media, is there a deadline for a business to be registered as a vendor with the city?
No, great question. There's not a deadline at all. Once you're in our system, you're in our system. Our vendor self-service, when you register, it's completely online. When you do registration, it's like when you're doing anything else online nowadays. You're going to create a username and password. Your company is then able to go in and maintain and update your company information. So if contact information changes, email addresses change, if your commodity codes change, you can go in and you can revise that. So no, there is no deadline. Once you're in our system, you're there, and you're able to then log in and maintain that information.
Awesome. And then the last one I'm seeing on social media is, can council members recommend a business?
Yes, by all means. Vice Mayor, when you came on board, I think it was one of the first things you reached out and talked to me, and I think vendors went to you, and you went straight to me, and you do a great job of sending those emails to me when you get them. So yes, if any of this council members receive any word from a vendor, yes, direct them to us. I'm then happy to reach out and then let them know about the process. So yes, they can do that.
All right, thank you. That's all I see on social media and in the chat.
Perfect. Well, I just want to really finish up with just to kind of point out some of the tips for success for vendors and how to do business with us, just to reiterate again, which is number one, register. Go to our vendor self-service site, register as a vendor. That way we know that you're there. Certify for is many different programs that you can certify for. They do matter. We do recognize women-owned businesses. We do recognize different certifications. And there are some programs that the certifications definitely matter. So state of Kansas has a disadvantaged business program, DBE certification. There's REBE. Through the SBA, they have 8A. There's also veteran-owned businesses, and you can also be certified as women-owned. So certify for as many as you can. Familiarize yourself with our not only the city's procurement process, but how we do our bids and proposals. Go to our website and look at our contracts and our bid results. You're able to see who your competition is. If that's happens to be your look, I want to bid. Who am I going to be bidding against? So familiarize yourself with that. Look at our vendor self-service at the bids that we have out there right now. You can see what our specifications are, what we're asking for, and you can always then reach out to purchasing. We'd be happy to go over some of our past specs with you as well, just so you can again understand how we are putting out word and how we do word it when we put out those solicitations. Ask questions during a solicitation. When we post that bid or proposal, a lot of times we'll have we call it a pre-bid meeting or a pre-proposal conference meeting. That's the time to ask questions. If you need clarification on them, we can issue addendums to clarify that. So definitely do that. Attend those meetings and make sure you completely understand the solicitations. The big one is when you do come time to submit a bid, if you are going to go that route, submit them on time. Our formal bids are due on Fridays by 10 a.m. and 10 a.m. means 10 a.m. If it's 10:01 when it comes through, it's late. We don't accept them. Formal RFP proposals do have times as well, but that's usually 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And follow those instructions and get them in on time. That's very important. And then last but not least, ask for feedback. If it's a proposal and your proposal was evaluated and not ranked at the top, ask for a debriefing. What is it I could have done better on my proposal? What was the strengths of my proposals? Maybe what was the weaknesses of it? And then on bids are all about the low bid, but you can still ask if your bid seemed way out of line. Ask for feedback and go that route. So that would kind of be, what I would say, those are your tips for success for doing business with the city as a business owner. Be proactive and work with us. We want to, if you're successful, then the city's successful, we're able to procure the goods that we need and continue to work on our mission. But at that is how to do business with the city. That's all I had. Again, I will go back to questions. I think I did see one more chat came through. Oh, thank you there, Brandon. Yep, Chris Hazlett, Contract Compliance Officer. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to purchasing. Our phone number is 268-4636. I'll put it here in the chat as well. That's the purchasing main phone number. You can reach out at any time. Myself would be happy to talk to you. And then any of the other buyers as well. The purchasing manager, her name is Melinda Walker. You can always reach out to her. So there is our phone number, 268-4636. And then on wichita.gov, we have all of our contact information as well, from our emails to our direct office numbers.
Awesome. Wonderful presentation as always. Are there any questions that came to mind while the presentation was going on that anyone has not asked yet?
Chris, are you familiar with Christy Hazlett?
That's me. Yep. Oh, Christy Hazlett. No, I don't believe I know her.
Oh, okay.
Does she spell her name the same as mine? H-A-I-S-L-E-T-T?
Yes.
What would it be? Kristen Hazlett?
Yes.
So my sister-in-law, she's a school nurse. Kristen Hazlett works for USB 259.
Yes, I know her. That's why I was wanting to make sure that's I don't hear that name very often. So
No, she's married to my brother. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
great lady.
Yeah, she's super nice. I'm lucky that she's my sister-in-law. That's for sure.
Yeah, you definitely got a nurse in the family.
Yep.
All right. Are there any other questions? I don't see any on social media, even with the lag. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for joining us. Appreciate the presentation again and all the answers and all the work that you continue to do to help out with expanding the vendor base. And thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, no, thank you. Vice Mayor, anytime. I'd love to come on and do this presentation. Thanks for allowing me to. And your work with us in purchasing and is invaluable. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So I have a few updates, things to talk about. And again, always happy to answer questions from the public on social media and on here. If you see me looking down, I'm just monitoring Facebook to see if any questions pop up. I guess the first thing to start with is I've had a lot of questions about being vice mayor and what that means. So just real quick, vice mayor is a title. It rotates throughout the council members. So, we have a mayor who's at large, and then vice mayor is a council member. Every year, our colleagues, we all kind of choose who the vice mayor will be. There is an order of succession that we approve every year. So if you go look at that, you kind of know who's going to be the next vice mayor. So all the newbies right now have been vice mayor. So last year we had Vice Mayor Claycomb. So we both were elected at the same time. This year's me. And then next year, the newest newbie, Councilmember Tuttle, will likely be vice mayor, but it is something that it rotates, and then we all, agree, and, no real controversy around it. Just, we appoint the vice mayor. The perks of the job, you get a new parking spot. So we park maybe 30 feet from the door. Vice mayor gets to park maybe 20 feet from the door on a different area next to the city manager. So that part is cool. Other responsibilities, honestly, is part of like a city leadership team. So, the county has a chair and pro tem chair. City has mayor and vice mayor. So we actually meet as mayor and vice mayor with the chair and county pro tem once a month. Our next meeting, I believe, is next Thursday. And we just talk about the priorities of the city and the county, try to get some details hammered out, or if there are joint issues that we need to focus on, that's where we have those discussions. There's also opportunities for mayor and vice mayor to work with some of our community partners, whether that's the chamber or the partnership or other things coming down the pike. We know that, or we meet together. The ongoing hospital calls, mayor and vice mayor on there, listening in to what's going on, the ongoing pandemic, of course. So different leadership opportunities. There is no pay increase. Same deal. And job responsibility. I'm still a council member for District 1, so we still represent our own districts. It's just that title and a few additional responsibilities in I guess the old normal. There would be opportunities where, if the mayor is busy or has 2 or 3 events and can't make another 2, then the vice mayor would step in for the mayor in that case, and then down to that actual district council member. Normally that council member's there anyway, just, it's their district. But yeah, past that, it rotates. It's an honor still to be vice mayor. You're still vice mayor of a city, but you still have your responsibility to your district. So that's kind of a lot of what I've been hearing questions about it. So it's a really cool experience. It is weird. It was weird for me to be called councilman or a council member. I'm just used to Brandon, and now I have to get used to vice mayor, but it's an honor. So that's the vice mayorship. And the next January, we will pick our next vice mayor for 2022. I'll give you some updates that came from the newsletter that I put in there. And feel free, if a question comes to mind, to put it in the chat, and I'll pause after a few updates to see if there's any questions for that. Oh, got a question already. Ms. Ridge.
Good morning, Councilman and Vice Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Good morning.
So glad to have you representing District 1. I did come to mind, some things came to mind about the purchasing. I kind of like to know one thing. Did you get a good turnout for this call on how to do business with the city?
Well, today, between social media and Zoom, we probably had about 40 people watching. When we did this in person, I think our first one was February of 2018 or March of 2018. I have to go back and look. I try to do it once a year. Normally, we have 50 or so people to show up with this. And then throughout other engagements, I always post when we have RFPs or RFQs on social media so folks know. Try to let other business folks that have been asking about it know. And we've had a few apply and become vendors. And we're still working through some of the processes that hinder smaller businesses from being successful working with the city, you know, bonding and insurance and all of that stuff. We're still working through some of those hurdles.
And my other question is, what type of complaints have you had from your constituents regarding the purchasing department? What kind of complaints do you get about this, the distribution or unequal funds? What kind of complaints do you get?
So the complaints I've had have pretty much remained consistent since before I was in office and now. They're less now, but still some of the same structural issues. So before I was in office, I continued to hear that we changed the goalpost for smaller businesses and make things only where the business can participate. And what we did, I brought that to Chris and the department. So they're working through what that looks like now. And a lot of that work, if you really pay attention to the water treatment plant, is breaking down some of those barriers and breaking down some of the bigger projects and the smaller projects so smaller businesses can handle that. Other issues that I was told was folks not knowing how. That's why I push really hard on learning how to become a vendor with the city. There's a lot of opportunity there. We spend $60-70 million a year with local businesses. And there's a lot of folks who can do that work that just don't know how. So we try to get the word out about that. Another issue is that the minority spend is too low. That's still the case. It is low. And what we're trying to do is find businesses that do all the things that we need and make sure they know how they can become a registered vendor of the city. Sometimes that requires a little more work on their part to be able to take on one of these jobs. But we're also working through that to see how we can be more helpful in connecting people to resources so that they can take on some of these jobs. And again, just continuing to get the word out and having conversations like this. Chris was gracious enough to come to a few conversations where I brought some small businesses that had some of these concerns out. And he's been trying to find ways to work through that and hear directly from the potential vendor pool what could help get them involved. So that's mostly what I hear. And again, still working through a lot of that. There is can't say a whole lot about it. It's not done yet, but we're working through a very simplistic vendor portal that may make things really easy for someone to do business with the city and have additional resources for minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses to make sure that they can compete in this market with the city funds.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. Updates from the newsletter. Just to highlight again, Wichita made national news for a good reason, and trying to correct some of the narrative nationally. As you may not know, the Dockham sit-in happened here in Wichita. The Dockham sit-in happened 2 years before the Greensboro, North Carolina sit-in. So this is the first documented sit-in in America. And it's something that historically, I don't think had been talked about because those that participated were just so humble. You know, they did it, they changed things and they went back to work. And hasn't been really until maybe the last 15 or so years that people really started harping about, you know, this happened here and it happened before Greensboro. And this was one of the sparks to change this country. And knowing some of the folks with the Dockham sit-in, you know, Mr. Vesey, Dr. Vesey is still here. Miss Wesley is still here. There's a few other members still here, some spread out around the country, but just learning that history is great. And one of Wichita's own was able to get that on the Today Show. So I've been sending out that link I've been sending it to some of my friends. Being an elected official, we are a part of the National League of Cities. So we have, we know people in different cities. I know elected officials all through the South, and every year they post to Greensboro and I send them the information about the DOCM. Haven't got one to share it yet, but I like to let them know that, you know, we did have that 2 years prior. And not a competition, you know, it's all good work to change this country for the better, but I like to show them that Wichita is a leader in that. So we sent that out. That's in the newsletter if you missed that story. I just saw Dr. VC yesterday. So again, great group of people changing the world. We've got heroes right here in Wichita, all over for a number of different reasons. Also, I do have some board vacancies. So every year I send out, I haven't done it yet, I'll probably do it next week, an email to anyone that I've appointed for District 1 to serve on the Citizen Advisory Board, just to see if they want to stay on, if they're interested. If not, you know, definitely let me know. And then for vacancies, folks who are interested, I try to set up meetings and talk to them about what that board is, the responsibility they have, and just to let them know every board is serious. All that work is important, and just to make sure that they are committed. So District 1 has a few vacancies right now. The District 1 Advisory Board has a vacancy. I've been trying to hold at least one spot for a member of District 1, the southern part, so south of Kellogg, and it's just a small corner that's District 1. But I'd love to have representation from there. I've kind of held that spot for about a year now, and I've got 2 other people interested in serving. So I may appoint someone, because I think I have 2 folks that may term out by next year. So hopefully we can get somebody interested. I love to have folks spread out throughout the district, just to make sure we have that perspective. There's things they may know that I may not, or the dad may not, and they can bring that valuable information. So there's a vacancy there. Of course, the city council created the Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Board. There has been no appointments yet. We're hoping the pool grows. So if you are interested in that, that started off as an advisory council to the mayor, just to work through what are the issues in Wichita and what are some steps we can take, and decided to go down the path working with PPMC at WSU on creating an official board, one that will outlast any mayor. It's a full city board that can be appointed by council members and the mayor going forward. So that's what they did, and it's open right now. There's a foundational document that came from all of that work over the summer that this board will start with. This board will be able to pick what day and time that they meet. It's not set, and we're not setting that. We're allowing the citizens who serve to set that, and that'll be the official day and time going forward. And they'll be able to finalize bylaws for their group and what the work that they do. I'm excited about this board. It's something I think that can help us, guide us on a lot of issues that have come up where, you know, a citizen may want to meet with us and talk about it, but you know, this gives it just an official place for the work to be done. So I'm excited about that. If you're interested, definitely apply. There's a few people that I've seen watching from social media or on here that have applied. We'll probably start making appointments here pretty soon so we can get that going. I now have an opening on the library board. So if someone is interested in serving on the library board, definitely go apply. And I'll post the link to that, but you can go to wichita.gov, click get information, citizen advisory boards and commissions, and that's the link where all the boards are. And then lastly, I've had a vacancy for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, maybe longer than that. I'm starting my 4th year in office now. Yeah, it's probably longer, on the Wichita Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees. So if there's someone who likes finance and looking at retirement funds and investments, that's a board that you could be a real benefit on and help our city out. So we have those openings. And again, if anyone's paying attention to this from another district, there are other openings that the other council members may have. Just don't hesitate to apply, and then let the council member know that you applied for consideration. Tax assistance wise, the city is working in partnership with the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP. If you didn't know what that stood for, I didn't until I saw that. All of our resource centers provide free tax services. What we're looking at right now, by appointment only at Colvin and Evergreen. Colvin, Southeast Wichita, District 3. That phone number is 303-8029 if you would like to go there. Also at Evergreen in District 6, that number is 303-8042. You can find additional locations to receive free tax assistance by calling 211. The public library is also offering a tax form distribution program that'll start. It started 5 days ago on the 1st and run through April 15th. And if you need any other federal or state forms, you can request additional tax forms by calling the library at 261-8500, but there's a print cost at 10 cents per page. And I'll pause there. I don't see any questions. Okay. And then one of the hot topics, District 3, the vacancy, of course. There's no council member representing District 3 right now. Next Tuesday, District 3 will have a special meeting to interview 9 candidates. There were 12 that filed by petition. 3 of them did not have enough signatures. 9 did. That will be Tuesday night, and the link to that is on wichita.gov. It's the second story on the first page to gives you that information, but that will be open to the public virtually. You can tune in and watch and kind of, form your own opinion. Members of District 3 who watch that, definitely let us know who you think best represents you. I'll listen to anyone reaching out to me about that. Again, I don't live in District 3, so if District 3 loves a candidate, I want to hear it. So definitely let me know. The candidates, there are 9, are, if I mess up a name, I'm sorry. Nicholas Blasi, Jason Carmichael, Jared Cerullo, Mary Dean, Michael Hoheisel, Cindy Miles, Virgil Miller Jr., Joseph Shepard, and George Theo Harris. So all 9 of those candidates will on Tuesday go before the District 3 Advisory Board. They have some preformed questions that they will have to answer in person. The District Advisory Board will pick their top 4 or 5, and those 4 or 5 will come to the City Council. We will interview those candidates with a set of questions and, see if they fully understand the job at hand. And then after that, we will vote. I should have that date. I don't, but we will vote at a council meeting in the very near future to appoint who we feel is best by majority vote to that seat. That person will serve out the remainder of the unexpired term of the former council member, which will go until January of 2022. If that appointed council member then runs for office and wins, then they will have been elected to serve a 4-year term, which would begin in January 2022. If they don't run for office, they're just done in January and will go back to life as a former council member. So those are the big things coming up. Lastly, we've had a lot of conversations around ethics on the city council. The city manager, Bob Layton, will outline somewhat of a timeline on Tuesday on what that looks like for engagement. If you didn't watch the workshop, most of the council really wanted to see more public engagement on this, although we've been working on this for quite a while internally, questions, amendments, things like that. The public hadn't seen that final draft. And to me, it's important for everyone to see that, because ultimately we work for you. And, we can come up with something that governs us really quickly. But if you don't have input on that to say that you like it or you don't like it, or there's something missing, then I think, we would miss out on that. So there will be a robust public engagement process that will be coming. Again, Tuesday, the city manager will kind of outline what that looks like. We're looking at reaching out to third parties to help guide that conversation. look at best practices, and then again, engage the public to see what you all think on that. And some of it, as I brought up at the workshop, was, there's different things that I've heard that people care about. A lot of what I heard early on was, lunches and dinners and stuff like that. Who are you meeting with? And there's other council members that didn't hear that at all. It was, what type of gift are you getting, or are you getting any money on the back end? So I think for us, it's just good to really hear what the public has to say regarding some of the ideas or things that we might be missing out on, or some of the definitions that people may feel need to be better. That way we can try to address it. And then this won't be like a one and done thing. I know Councilmember Claycomb recommended evaluating this next year, 1 year from implementation. Honestly, I like that idea. I think it should be evaluated every year because there might be something we miss or something that comes up. So regular evaluation means that you're regularly looking at it, and I think it keeps it at the forefront and to make sure that folks are doing what's right. So that conversation is coming up. And I guess just to add to that thought before I open up for any other questions on that is, sometimes we ask questions. I think that is a council member's job. You really want to ask a lot of questions to make sure not only that you understand, but that the public understands these things. It may add to some of the time length on there, which is frustrating. It frustrates me all the time how slow things go in government. But I have found that even though it's slow, some things could be a little faster, but although it's slow, a lot of times you get a thorough look at it, and that makes it better. And one of those things was the aquatics plan. That was a long discussion, years in the making, but ultimately I think the final product came out way better than what some of the proposals were. We were looking at dropping down to 3 pools in the city, and they would have been nice, but 3 versus 6, having 6 is better than 3. And, having 6 after having 9, you're closer to 9 at that point. And these look amazing, plus the water playgrounds. So sometimes it's slow and frustrating, but oftentimes I've found that good comes from it. So with that, I will pause and see if there's any questions or thoughts or things I missed or something I didn't talk about that you all may want to talk about.
If no one is asking anything, I would like to know, as a valuable citizen in the city of Wichita, what are we going to be doing to help curtail the trash buildup around our community? I know what I'm doing, but I just want to see what the city's plans are for this coming season.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been talking about that quite a bit. I talk to the department all the time just about what we can do to speed up processes, what else we could do. Some of the issues that we are facing right now, even with neighborhood cleanups, is the landfill changed the price on us. So prices for getting rid of mattresses and box springs went up.
Again?
Yeah. So, we keep allocating the same budget, but the prices are going up, which means we can do less. And then what we really struggled with between last year and now was COVID. I send in a lot of reports. Camila will send in reports. Citizens send in reports. And if someone catches COVID and that office gets quarantined, or everyone that they came in contact with is quarantined, then you've got inspectors out for 2 weeks. And if they actually have it, then they might be out longer than that because you still need to wait for some recovery after that. So that really hurt our efforts last year. And my hope with the vaccine rollout is that we can do better this year managing that. But that's really the biggest hangup. There was one illegal dumping site that I had reported, and I started calling. And finally, the director called me and said, yeah, those 2 are out on quarantine, and they were pulling from other parts of the city to try to get some of that cleaned up. So that's the biggest challenge. The other parts are, we've been talking about environmental court and how we can work with them to maybe get a better process or something that could be done to address some of these issues quicker. I mean, I hear from neighbors in different neighborhoods all the time about blight and some of that, or just continued problem houses. You know, every year this one house is going to be an issue. So we've been talking about that. We've even looked at, there was a bill last year that almost got through, but COVID stopped everything in state government that would have helped. I have a copy of that. So talking with the legislature about that, just trying to get every tool possible to help out. But as we point out these problem properties, and there's one right now, there's a house I've watched for the last month and a half that every week just throws more and more trash out in front of the house. And it's fenced in. And at this point, our policy with like inspections and stuff is we're not really trying to do too much in person because of COVID. So again, I'm just hoping we can get through this quicker so we can start addressing those issues. I know that was a long answer to your question, but.
Oh, no, that
Brandon?
was,
Oh, sorry, Juanita. Go ahead.
oh, no, it's okay. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention that on a smaller scale, one of the things that the city of Wichita is doing with the single-use plastic bag task force that I serve on and Brandon chairs is a litter study. This is the kind of just trash that people throw out their cars, or what you see on the side of the road or by the curb. We're going to do a data collection is what we're calling it. It's a trash pickup in each district, and that trash is going to be analyzed by the Environmental Finance Center at WSU that got a grant to do that from the EPA. So that's super exciting. But we're gonna start that in the spring probably once it warms up a little bit, because you don't want to be out when it's super cold. But we're gonna pick up in all 6 districts so we get a good representation of the entire city. I'm going to recommend that we do more toward the middle of town than on the edges of town, just because everything seems to blow into town if it's there. And as we in District 1 know, there's stuff all over the place outside. I pick up stuff in my yard every single day that blows here or that someone tosses out. So I'm hoping this litter study will give us a little bit of insight on what we're finding and where that's coming from, and maybe help us to determine how to put some limits or some bans on some of that stuff, so that we don't have to worry about at least something like a plastic bag any longer. So that's coming up this spring. So we should have some results on that by the end of the 3rd quarter, it sounds like.
Awesome.
Okay, Brandon, I know that just through the community cleanup challenge and all of my efforts in trying to help keep the city of Wichita clean, especially District 1, I see so many beer bottles and liquor bottles. And it seems like that our partners with the liquor stores should have a role to play, or funds to contribute to community cleanups. And I don't think that's been happening.
No, it hasn't. And at this point, I wouldn't know how they would go about that. The only thing I could think of is when you buy alcohol, there's a sin tax on there. If the state were to increase that, then maybe allocate those funds towards cleanups. I don't think there's political will here on the council level for a what would be deemed as a tax increase right now. But that is a conversation we could have and see if folks would be interested in that. Honestly, I think it's a harder push, but I would love to see, I forget the name of the technology, but I had 2 people meet with me back in 2018 looking at recycling, but there was a special way to recycle. And I told them if we found a product that could be made from recyclable materials, whether it was glass or plastic, and we could, basically capitalize on that. Wichita's in a great space, being in the middle of the map to do so. And, as Lori mentioned, we've got enough floating around that we could get started and show some of these products. I've been watching some technology. There are some bricks made out of recycled products that could be put in the street, stuff like that. So I've been quietly searching for an entrepreneur that would be interested. And, if we found somebody willing to do that, I think we could capitalize. And I think that would clean up our streets too, because there would be a way to make a few dollars off of recyclable materials as well as, help our city kind of be a leader in that. So on the back end, that's what's going on. I don't know about the tax piece, but I can talk to some of our South Central delegation about that and see what they think. From social media, there are ways you can help, but right now, help with the trash problem and some of the blight. Yeah, I will continue to message that out and reach out to partners on this as I get more information. Right now, I don't have anything good to say, and we don't have a action plan outlined yet. But internally, we're having a discussion, and hopefully, I'll have more information. But I will always share that via these meetings, the newsletter, emails, and at some point in-person meetings as well to work on that. And then I'm not sure if we have ever explored a refundable deposit on glass bottles. Lori, do you know if we've done that? Okay.
I don't think so, but I'd rather have a refundable deposit on plastic bottles.
Yeah. And bags.
That would be a lot more help than glass. Though we do have a broken glass problem everywhere in the city as well, or at least in District 1 where I live.
Yeah.
Brandon, I've mentioned this to you before, but because we do know that once the weather starts getting nice, mattresses will start flowing freely throughout our community. And I mentioned having, like we have so many businesses that if they can contribute to a canister, like having one in different segments of the District 1 so that people will be able to, dump their stuff or, pay a small fee at the dumpster between a certain hours so that we can try to get on top of this problem and not continue to see it manifesting every year.
Yeah, that's something that I intend to come back to neighborhood associations with this year. We haven't been able to engage as much because of the pandemic, but one thing Camila and I noticed early on when we were looking at ways to help grow neighborhood associations is there's always businesses in there, businesses or churches. And many of the neighborhood associations hadn't reached out to those businesses, whether it's a convenience store or, a bank or whatever that might be that's within the boundaries. And if we found out, what the price was for a dumpster, broke that down into, smaller numbers like, hey, can you give $100 towards this? And, you raise enough money like that from those businesses or churches and community members who want to contribute, then every neighborhood association has the potential to be able to add more of those cleanup opportunities in that way. And that's something that we'll probably do more this year virtually until folks can meet safely in person.
Yeah, and as an incentive for the businesses, they could have like some type of have their business name on the calendar to show how they give back to the community.
Yeah, we've said that. We've said, we'll even use some of this money to do the newsletter, and we can advertise your business in there. And thank you for the contribution, and folks know, again, who contributed to it. All of those are good ways to help the business get some name recognition and also get the community cleaned up. There was a question in the chat about the $1.4 million wedding party venue at a park in South Wichita because they need something nice. Let me see what that first part of the question was. I don't know what type of update you're looking for. That is a project that was approved in the CIP. The funding was already there for it. And I forgot why we waited, but ultimately that was approved. That was something to continue to improve Watson Park. Did you have any more specifics you wanted to know about that?
Yes. Isn't that kind of competing with private business? Why is I love government enriching our lives, but a private wedding venue competes with the other thousands of private wedding venues that pop up every day in this city. Why? And again, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are starving. People don't have jobs. County and the city seem to be spending money like no problems are out there. And whether or not it was already approved, we need to step back and say, do we really need this? Is this going to help us get through the pandemic? I don't think it is. And I think I think government is not being serious about this right now. And you know, when President Biden's plan comes through and they're going to offer all this money to the cities and the counties, you guys are going to be the first ones to sign up for this. I just think this is not a government, first, it's not a government function. And again, I'm as liberal as the next guy, as I mentioned earlier in my email, but you're making a libertarian out of me. This is absolutely not a government function to be in the private venue business when there's so many private organizations out there whose livelihoods depend on it. So that's why I wanted an update. Where are we? And why is government involved in this? What's your opinion on government's involvement in this?
Yeah, so opinion-wise, well, a few things. So I have to go back and look at what that actually is. I don't think it's being built as an actual wedding party space. It's just a space that is at one of these parks that could be utilized. All of rec centers and other government spaces have opportunities like that. You look at Exploration Place, it's a science center, but they also do event venues. I had my wedding reception there at Exploration Place. That wasn't the initial purpose of it, but it's something that they can do to make additional revenue. In addition to other places, McAdams has rooms that you can rent out if you wanted to do something there. This would be another space that you could rent out if you wanted that. So I don't look at it just as some place, you know, for folks to go do wedding pictures. As you said, there's enough of that around the city. I think that was just a space for improvements to the park, another room that could be used. And if you look again at our rec centers, and I always talk about McAdams, they need a lot of improvement, but they also meet those needs too, where you can make more events there. In regard to the spending piece, so there's two, I think, lines of thought. One is the city just stops spending everything and doesn't do anything. It just holds on to the money that it has, and, you know, tightening our belts, as they would say, and just waiting to see what happens. There's another train of thought where you set yourself up for recovery, and what can you do as everything opens back up? And I take that view of government. I got that from Mayor Brewer. Talking to Mayor Brewer through the last recession, he continued to harp on how it was so important to make sure we were investing in things to make sure that when we got out of the recession, Wichita was better positioned to be one of the first cities ready to go. And that was where the downtown push came, and we see more than a decade later that he was right. Set up to be quite successful downtown. It came from those pushes. Internally, I've been saying that while we need to make sure we're not doing excessive spending, CIP funds can only be used for infrastructure. So whether we did it now or waited 3 years, we can only use it for infrastructure. And there is job creation in that, because somebody has to build that out. Somebody has to get the ground right. Somebody has to design it. Somebody has to do landscaping. So there's job creation from there. There will be staff from city that will have to, you know, work that facility. But ultimately, all the things that we're doing set Wichita up to be one of the cities that's ready when we come out of that. We've made those investments. We've made more investments in roads. We continue to do those things. And Wichita, I think, will be better for it. But I do understand that there's conflicting points of view. Lonnie.
May I address that?
Yep.
It is primarily a gathering place for families, for picnics and associated events. We've had a lot of traffic there down at Watson as they've made improvements. It was the private photographers that wanted to save the gazebo from Napster Park for their to take pictures of families and weddings. So really, I think the gazebo part was to help support private businesses. We relocated, the soil turned out to not be strong enough to support the original plans. So they needed to relocate it and downsize a little bit, and that caused the delay.
Thanks, Lonnie. All right, any other questions or discussion? So you're looking at social media. We have to stop so much spending on new and either tear down or improve the old. We are killing the environment. Yeah, I'll just read that for the record. I think you could go either way on that. Some of the tearing down the old is building new, more energy efficient properties. Sometimes the old you can, invest in and bring it up to new standards or improved standards. Oftentimes that costs a lot more than tearing something down and building it new in a way that is more energy efficient. But it really just depends on the property and what that might be. If there's a really solid structure, a core structure there that you can build on, it's probably best to keep it, because some of those structures that are older are stronger and built better. Lori kind of mentioned that earlier. So I think you have to evaluate each project or property before going in, but preservation is always a good thing when you can, if it serves a purpose and continue to benefit. And then if not, then you build something that is not just good for now, but you really try to bring in what's the next 50 to 100 years look like, and you try to build it for that, and then build it where if adjustments need to be made, they can. So when you look at the Advanced Learning Library, it was constructed the way it is now, but there are opportunities to build on it. So there's enough property there to expand it. It was designed in a way probably could take out a whole wall or section and then build upon that without too much additional cost. So I think that's a good way to look at how you can build for the future. Sometimes some of our older structures don't allow for that. But our engineers do a pretty good job of giving us the, this is good and this is not. Miss Juanita.
Okay. I want to know, what is the city of Wichita doing in its collaboration with the Department of Corrections with inmates that are being released back into the community? What role of oversight do you guys have with what is happening? We're seeing too many that are coming out of prison that are, getting back in trouble. A lot of the violence is coming. How is the city involved with this arena?
Yeah, so we meet monthly with KDOC, and we meet at different levels. On the highest level, there's a committee right now looking at recommendations that will go to the governor for the whole state of Kansas that has more best practices and encourages replication of what we do here in Wichita and other regions of the state. So about half of the folks that we get are not from here. The other half are. The half that are not from here come here because of all the resources that we have. So we've been encouraging for the last 2 years work around regional hubs that can help out in other parts of the state of Kansas to get folks what they need. Sometimes there are people who are basically not allowed to return back to their city or county, and they have to go somewhere. And sometimes that's here, sometimes it's not. So we're having that dialogue on that high level. And then on the local level, we still meet with KDOC, kind of the regional folks. One of the things that we started doing over at Atwater, it wasn't a citywide program, but we saw that there were folks who were coming over into our community. And there's a few reasons for that. This is a very complex issue. So you have slumlords who will take on someone who's coming out of a correctional facility and kind of screw them over on rent and the quality of property. And that's the only place they can go because of a felony background. In America, we don't always honor what we said. When you serve your debt to society, all is forgiven. Now, there's some crimes I know that maybe shouldn't be, but there's other ones, you know, if you were selling drugs or you got in a couple fights, you know, and you find some type of felony from that, you should be given a second chance. It shouldn't bar you from being in certain living spaces. I get child predators and stuff like that, but you know, a lot of these folks aren't that type of person. They committed some things they shouldn't have, or sold some, you know, drugs they shouldn't have, or, you know, stuff like that. But oftentimes that's held against them. So one, now you have a living space that's not really conducive. And then two, not every employer will employ you depending on your background. So if you get into a space where you're in a slum condition, you don't really have a job, then ultimately you're thinking about, well, I need to make some money and I know how, and you go back to it. And so we are trying to find the resources to wrap around to stop that from happening. So what we did at Atwater was bring in KDOC, and we tried to get the folks who are returning to 67214 to come into Atwater once a month. And we couldn't get it regularly going. We were still working out the kinks, and then COVID hit. So we need to revisit that. But what we did was bring all the resources to everyone coming out. So when they came to Atwater, we were able to get a private business to fund feeding them. And then we brought in Health Corps Clinic. I think GraceMed joined us. We brought in Union Rescue Mission was there. We talked about Atwater. We talked about if you want to work out, we got a weight room. We talked about if you have frustration and you want to box it out, we've got a boxing ring. If you need job resources, we've got that here. If you need to apply for a job, we've got computers. We just really tried to wrap our arms around them and say, you know, you're out of there now. You're in the community. We want to support you in the best way we can. If you get hungry and need food, the Lord's Diners here Monday through Friday from 4 to 6, no questions asked, come eat. And we're trying to meet the needs that they have to make sure that they don't even consider going back to doing anything that's detrimental. That's a model I really want to see around the city, but we need to perfect it first. But we're talking to KDOC about all of that and the concerns about those coming back here. And Chief Ramsey's been talking with them as well. Some of the crimes that have been committed are folks who have been in our community coming from the correctional system that did some things. I think one of the officers that was unfortunately killed a couple years ago was killed by someone who had just gotten out previously, probably shouldn't have gotten out. But we're trying to find the best way to help them as much as we can so that they can be productive. And that's ultimately, I think, what we all want. Lori, you were going to say something.
Yeah, this, like you said, is such a complex issue. There is much more that KDOC can do. Like they, for a while, maybe they're not, maybe they are now, but they didn't even offer GEDs while you were incarcerated. I'm assuming they're doing that again, but they removed so many programs. The people that are the most successful coming out of prison have family members or someone that's going to take them in because they've got support on the outside. But many of these people also have broken all family ties because they've hurt them so bad. So that's an issue. But having some sort of opportunity to learn to weld. I mean, there's a demand for welders to learn any of these technical skills. It doesn't have to be a college degree. There's not always a job following a college degree, but there's a lot of programs that they could institute that would really help these people when they get out. So they've got a skill that they can market rather than just coming out and not even having a high school diploma, which is pretty common. I mean, there's a lot that KDOC could do, and they used to do that, but then they quit, and that needs to be put back. So if you have any influence at all, Brandon, please talk to them about starting at least the GED again so that people can get a high school equivalent, and then they'll be able to move on. They'll have something behind them. When you're released, though, you're released with nothing, basically. You don't even have a driver's license. You don't have an ID. How do you get that when you don't have an address? It's a big problem.
Yeah.
There are agencies, there are groups that have helped in other states and other cities. I don't know, do we have something like that here in Wichita that assists people the day they come out and helps them get signed up for all this stuff?
I don't think so. I can ask Camila. She would know. She's really helped me quite a bit with KDOC.
That would be super helpful if some group would take that on. I know that League of Women Voters used to go out and just give people information on how they can register to vote once they're off parole. And many people don't know that, but in the state of Kansas, once you've served your term and you're done off paper, you can vote, and you need to get registered, because then you can have a say in what the state does about things that have affected you in your life. So there's a lot of services that could be offered while inside and also outside. But it'd be nice to see a lot more support, because many people are in often without really having done anything that serious, like you said.
Yeah.
Many of those people also are mentally ill. And that's where we need to get them in touch with social services immediately to continue meds and things like that too.
Yep, that's a good point. And that's something that on that end, County Commission is helping with. Commissioner Cruz has been really focused on looking at how we can do more with mental health, and even talking about, folks that come out, or even some of our homeless folks, how can we get that issue addressed? So that's definitely important too.
Well, I certainly think that one of the issues that nobody really looks at, and I've done a lot of prison ministry, is that a lot of these guys are coming out of prison from being segregated for long periods of time in segregation. And the prisons are not doing anything to address their mental health. How does a family cope with someone who may have been sitting in segregation all those years? They don't have the resources, and they don't have the know-how to deal with someone who has been sitting in segregation for a long time.
Right.
Brandon, I'm remembering a month or two ago that you had someone from the police department that talked about the mental health unit, and I don't remember his name. Do you have that contact info that we could maybe get out again, so that families who are seeing people coming back that they're concerned about, that might have those kind of issues where they might feel like they need to call 911, can contact him ahead of time? As I put that in my neighborhood newsletter, so people
Awesome.
know who to contact in case, because people all over this city are living in fear of having to call 911.
Yeah, I'll find it for
some
you.
of the past things that have happened here with the police.
Yeah, I'll find it. I think that was the day we had, I think 12 officers on. I can't remember which one, but I'll find that for you.
That would be super helpful, I would think.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right. Well, this was great, and I got to get ready to go.
Okay. Well, I
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
Yeah. Yeah, great conversation. So we are trying to do as much as we can. I guess one last thing, we have found out at one point, yeah, I can say that. So during my campaign, I found a few people that said KDOC actually said they couldn't register to vote. So I've tried to get the, anytime there's an election coming up, I print out the state statute that says they can, and just hand that out. And if anyone says that, they were told it's not true, I just hand them the statute and say, hey, a governor signed this. This is law. You can register as long as you're not on probation or parole. And if you are, tell me what day you're not. We'll get this in the mail to you for that day. So yeah, we just need to keep that going and try to find ways to support. I think if we can find a way to support individuals coming out, we'll be better off as a society anyway. Well, I don't have any questions on social media, and it's 11:03. If there are no other questions, I can give you your Saturday back. All right, well, I don't see any. Social media has a lag, so while I'm talking, I'll see if anything pops up. Okay, yeah, this video, if you have Facebook, will just sit there, so you can always go back and watch the whole meeting. Someone had said they missed some information, so you can always go back and rewatch it. That was part of the reason that I really pushed for making these available via social media and whatever other means we could, because I would come to breakfast when I wasn't on council, and a lot of great information, and if you weren't there, you missed it. So one of the things that we could do to make sure people have more access to this good information was keep it online. Now the video lives forever and you can go back and watch it, or if you slept in today and didn't want to get up, you can watch it once we're done. But I don't see any other questions. So we will see you next month. We will still be virtual in March. I will make a determination in March whether or not we want to go virtual in April. More than likely it'll be virtual. I'm really more focused on the safety of everyone, although I want to be back in person, but we'll probably be virtual, but I will monitor everything. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you tune in Tuesday to the District 3 meeting to see, the candidates, make your own judgment on who they are and how you think they'll do. And then they'll come to council after that. So that's an important District Advisory Board meeting for you all to tune into. But I thank you all for joining us virtually. Hopefully we'll be in person soon together. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I've got a better handle on my emails now that I'm not at 1200 every day. But just reach out, bjjohnson@wichita.gov. If you send it to B Johnson, it goes to Officer Johnson. And when he gets in, he'll send it to me. So if you need a quick response, make sure you get BJ Johnson, 2 J's in there. But I hope you all have a wonderful day and weekend, and thank you all for tuning in.